Hi, lovely. So this morning, I was digging in a little bit. Every morning, most mornings, I start off, part of my practice is I ask myself this question. I go, what story am I telling myself? And if I'm identifying a story, a little pinpoint of anxiety or what have you, then I go in, I put the story on the shelf, I do a little bit of somatic renewal maintenance, and I go into my body. And I think the story I'm telling myself today was, I don't know, something like, I feel like I'm not going to get what I want in this area. I don't even remember what it was. It was like such a irrelevant story. And that's the thing, is the story is never like the thing. It's never the thing that's bothering you, but it's what gives us the charge to dive into what's bothering us. So the soulmatic renewal process is to like understand the story, play with the story a little bit, and then put it on a shelf and come into your body. Where do you physically feel it in your body? And then using the body as a container, you can get down into the real, full emotional experience that you're not letting yourself feel, whatever you're triggered by, right? And this is stuck energy, stuck emotions in our body, and it's been there forever. Maybe not forever, but it's been there for a long time. Now, with somatic renewal work, you don't have to know the origin of the stuck energy. You don't have to know what the original sin is, so to speak. You don't have to know that story. Something triggered you to have an emotional experience, and you were not able to have that emotional experience at the time that it originally came up for you for whatever reason. And maybe it's like you ran away from it, you didn't know how to feel it, somebody told you weren't allowed to, you stuffed it, whatever it was. But that experience never goes away. It dogs us in the form of triggers, which show up to try and get us back into that emotional experience. So that's what I work with every day, sort of on a maintenance process, to try and keep myself clear and not let my triggers and stories get so out of control that I lose it, because that's what happens. The trigger is an over-the-top emotional response to a situation, and we kind of lose our shit sometimes. So it's just a really good process for me. But anyway, so I don't remember what the story was because it doesn't matter. But I'm digging in and I'm feeling it in my heart. And I remember being surprised that I was feeling it in my heart. When we feel this energy in our heart, it's grief, right? So I'm sinking down, and where I got to was this place of this sort of story under the story, which was, I really don't trust people. I have just an innate mistrust of like all the people all around me. And it's not conscious, and it's not like I'm always on guard around people, but there's a piece of me, a deep piece of me, that feels mistrustful, that feels like people aren't going to stick around, that people are saying one thing but meaning another. I sort of am very like, I'm a person who kind of goes, okay, well, we'll see how that reveals itself. And it's a little bit of a pessimistic way to live life, right? But I was a little surprised at the depth of mistrust that I was experiencing in my body. And I kept moving through it, and I got to a good place with it. I sort of popped through, which is what you want to do in somatic renewal work. But it did stick with me, because I was like, who knew? I had this sort of deep feeling of mistrust of people in my world. Well, that was this morning, and fast forward to this afternoon, and I went to visit my mom, and I was chatting with her a little bit, and I was telling her about this, like, sort of understandings, coming to the conclusion that I had this real deep mistrust of people. And she said, well, that's because your father betrayed you so brutally when you were 12. My father did not betray me. What she meant was he died when I was 12. So he died when I was 12, and I had the experience of betrayal, the experience of abandonment from somebody who was supposed to be there forever, right? She's not wrong. Now, what that kind of gave to me as I was sort of driving around here, and what coalesced for me was, we don't have to know what experience triggered what we're holding on to now. And in some ways, it's detrimental to our progress to go digging for the original story, because it is a story, even if it happened. What we're going for is the experience of it. But it just goes to show that something can happen. You can have an emotional response to something that is not what was intended. So my dad died suddenly. He couldn't control it. He wouldn't have gone if he'd had a choice, I'm sure. But yet my emotional experience was one of abandonment and betrayal. She wasn't wrong about that. It was betrayal. I felt betrayed. And I couldn't have that emotional experience because it didn't match up with the story, with what really happened. My father died suddenly when I was a child. He couldn't help it. He didn't betray me. He did not betray me. But my experience was betrayal, and it manifested because it was unfelt at the time, it manifested in a pervasive mistrust of people in my world. And I thought it was a really cool little clicking into place is, a lot of times our story can take the form of blame. Like, it's your fault that I feel this way. And, it just, what we experience emotionally does not necessarily match up with the intentions of other people or triggers in our life. And we still have to have the experience. And that's the power of somatic renewal, is we get to give ourselves the full experience of our emotions, the full experience of the moment, without having to make it about anybody else. It's just about us. So now, 20 some odd years later, I'm dealing with the fallout of not being able to feel betrayed. Just not knowing how to feel that given the situation, and nobody in my life knowing how to take me through that. And that's not blaming anybody. That's just the way it was. So it's my responsibility now to go through and do my deeper work and keep doing the somatic renewal process and going into my heart, into my grief, into all of the emotional experiences that come up through that, so that I can heal and transform my experience and show up and be of divine service on this planet. That's the big kick right there. So hope that's helpful. It definitely was for me. It was kind of an angle I hadn't thought about yet, so I thought I'd pop on and share it with you. Soulmatic Renewal work with me is awesome. It's powerful. If you want in on it, please send me a DM. I've got groups that I run and I do one-on-one work, and it's a game changer, man. It is a game changer. So let me know. I love you madly. Mwah.